I remember sitting at my desk, staring at a mountain of notes, tabs open on my laptop, my phone buzzing nonstop. Every time I tried to focus, another thought popped into my head. Did I reply to that email? What was that formula again? Oh no, I'm late for my meeting. Maybe this sounds familiar to you. That sense of your brain being stretched too thin, like it's juggling 10 balls at once but keeping dropping them. You know the feeling. You're trying to think clearly, but everything feels fuzzy, overwhelming, and exhausting. What if I told you there's a reason your brain feels like this? A real, science-backed explanation for why even simple tasks can leave you mentally drained. It's called cognitive load, and understanding it could change the way you learn, work, and even think. Cognitive load theory was introduced by John Sweller in 1988, and it's all about understanding the limits of your working memory. Simply put, your brain can only hold a small amount of information at one time before it starts to feel overloaded. There are 3 types of cognitive load. First, intrinsic load. This is the inherent difficulty of the task itself. Learning a simple recipe? Low intrinsic load. Solving a calculus problem? High intrinsic load. Second, extraneous load, the unnecessary mental effort caused by poor presentation of information. Think of instructions that are cluttered, confusing slides, or endless pop-ups on a website. Finally, germane load, the mental effort that actually helps you learn. This is the good load, the part that builds understanding and skills. For example, imagine trying to learn a new language. Memorizing random vocabulary lists in a messy notebook adds extraneous load. Using spaced repetition and meaningful examples adds germane load. Recognizing the difference can help you focus your energy on the right kind of mental effort instead of exhausting yourself on distractions. Understanding these types is the first step to mastering how your brain handles information and stopping that constant mental overwhelm. I remember this one afternoon during exam season. My desk was buried in notes, textbooks stacked like towers, and my brain felt like a scrambled hard drive. I opened my notebook to revise, and nothing. Not a single formula or concept would stick. I kept rereading the same paragraph, but it was like my mind was a foggy glass. Everything blurred together. I slammed my pen down, frustrated, thinking, am I just bad at this? The more I stressed, the less I could remember. My coffee cup sat empty, my phone buzzed endlessly, and my brain felt overloaded in a way that made even simple recall impossible. Maybe you've been there too. Sitting in front of your work, trying your best, and still feeling like your brain is failing you. That's the exact moment I realized this wasn't laziness or lack of effort. My brain was overwhelmed, and it wasn't my fault. Our brains aren't built to hold everything at once. Working memory, the mental workspace where we process new information, has a very limited capacity. Miller's classic research in 1956 suggested we can hold about 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information at a time. Beyond that, things start falling through the cracks. Then there's attention residue, a concept from cognitive psychology. When you switch tasks, your focus from the previous task lingers, leaving less mental energy for the new one. That's why multitasking often makes you feel exhausted, even if each task on its own seems simple. Cognitive overload also links to decision fatigue. Every choice you make consumes mental resources, and after too many decisions, your brain struggles to make even small, everyday choices effectively. Put together, these factors explain why your brain can feel like it's maxed out when studying, working, or even scrolling through too many tabs online. Understanding these limits isn't just interesting, it's empowering. You can structure your tasks and learning in a way that respects your brain's natural capacity. Cognitive load isn't just a theory. It shows up everywhere in daily life. Take studying for exams. Dumping a huge chapter into your brain in one sitting creates high intrinsic load. Add messy notes, confusing diagrams, or constant notifications, and extraneous load spikes. Your working memory gets overwhelmed and learning slows down instead of speeding up. Or think about starting a new job. You're trying to remember passwords, workflows, names, and processes all at once. If training materials are poorly organized, your extraneous load skyrockets, leaving you exhausted by the end of the day. Even learning new software is a classic example. A cluttered interface, unclear instructions, and irrelevant features make it hard to focus on what matters. But if the interface is clean and instructions are scaffolded step by step, your brain can devote more energy to understanding, your germane load. The key is noticing when your mental energy is being wasted on irrelevant details versus productive effort. Recognizing these real-life examples helps you see why cognitive overload happens and, more importantly, how to prevent it. I still remember my first big presentation at work. I had rehearsed, prepared slides, and thought I was ready. But the moment I started speaking, my mind went blank. I stumbled over words, forgot key points, and felt all eyes on me. My heart raced, and the more I panicked, the less I could remember. Looking back, I realized my brain was overloaded. I had crammed too much information onto my slides, tried to memorize every detail, and ignored how my working memory actually works. The extraneous load, the cluttered visuals, and endless talking points had hijacked my ability to focus. That day, I felt embarrassed and frustrated, but it taught me an important lesson. No matter how much you know, if your brain is overloaded, it won't function at its best. Learning to manage cognitive load isn't just about studying, it's about performing under pressure, too. Reducing cognitive load starts with chunking information. Instead of trying to remember a long list of facts, group them into meaningful chunks. Your brain can handle these more easily, boosting recall and understanding. Another strategy is scaffolding, building knowledge step by step. Start with the basics, then layer in complexity. This reduces intrinsic load because your brain isn't trying to process everything at once. Minimizing extraneous load is equally important. Clear instructions, clean visuals, and a distraction-free environment help your working memory focus on what actually matters. Even something as simple as closing extra browser tabs or silencing notifications can make a big difference. Using worked examples is also powerful. Seeing a problem solved step by step reduces mental effort and teaches problem-solving patterns. Over time, this strengthens germane load, the good load that helps you learn. The takeaway? Cognitive load isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. By designing your environment, tasks, and learning strategies with your brain's limits in mind, you can drastically improve focus, retention, and performance. Our brains weren't designed for constant information overload. Evolutionarily, we needed to focus on immediate threats and essential tasks, not process dozens of notifications, emails, and instructions at once. That's why working memory is limited. It's a survival feature, not a flaw. Cognitive bottlenecks mean there's only so much mental information we can juggle at once. When you exceed that, errors creep in, recall fails, and stress rises. Add decision fatigue. Every choice, no matter how small, consumes cognitive resources. And it's easy to see why your brain feels drained by the end of a busy day. The good news is that understanding these limits reframes the problem. Your brain isn't broken or lazy, it's operating exactly as it was designed. Recognizing this allows you to structure tasks, learning, and workflows in ways that align with your mental architecture. I'll never forget the first time it truly clicked. I was preparing for a big project.
But this time, I approached it differently. I broke the work into small, manageable chunks, organized my notes clearly, and turned off every distraction I could. As I went through the tasks, something remarkable happened. My brain felt calm. I could focus on one step at a time, and the information actually stuck. Concepts that used to blur together became clear. I realized that I wasn't working harder, I was working smarter. It was like a weight lifted. The sense of overwhelm vanished, replaced by clarity and confidence. I felt in control of my mental energy for the first time in months. That day, I truly understood cognitive load, not just as a theory, but as a tool I could use to learn, perform, and even enjoy challenging tasks.
Here's how to put cognitive load theory into practice today. First, chunk your information. Break tasks into small, manageable pieces. Don't overload your brain with everything at once. Second, minimize distractions. Silence notifications, close unnecessary tabs, and create a clean workspace to reduce extraneous load. Third, use scaffolding and worked examples. Start with the basics, then gradually add complexity. Watch someone solve a problem before trying it yourself. It reduces unnecessary mental effort and strengthens learning. Fourth, prioritize germane load. Focus on mental effort that actually builds understanding, not on memorizing irrelevant details. Finally, respect your working memory limits. Take breaks, avoid multitasking, and be mindful of decision fatigue. By designing your learning, work, and daily routines around these principles, you can dramatically improve focus, retention, and performance without burning out. Cognitive load isn't your enemy. It's a roadmap to smarter thinking and learning.